Meet the biggest trash talker in poker history. He threw chips at his opponents and talked to the dealer like they were his dog.
Flip him over.
Molina ordering the dealer to turn over his cards.
This is the story of a guy who built his whole reputation by running his mouth at the World Series of Poker. And for one chaotic summer in 2006, he actually looked like he might back it all up. Fast forward almost 2 decades, and he makes a surprise return to the felt. Same guy, same energy. But this time, poker wasn't in the mood to play nice, because just 2 spots from the money at the 2024 NAPT in Las Vegas, the deck handed him a cooler so brutal, you could almost hear the universe saying, enough! So, how do you go from viral villain to bubble casualty after almost 2 decades? Before we get to the downfall, let's rewind and set the stage. Eric Molina isn't a household name like Phil Ivey or Daniel Negreanu. But if you were watching poker in 2006, you definitely remember him. He stormed into the World Series of Poker main event with all the swagger in the world, trash-talked his way onto ESPN's broadcast, and actually went deep. And just to be clear, the 2006 World Series of Poker main event was the loudest, most crowded poker stage the game had ever seen. Played at the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas from late July into August, the $10,000 no-limit Hold'em Championship drew a record 8,773 entrants and produced a total prize pool of $82,512,162. The winner would take home a jaw-dropping $12 million, the largest prize in the event's history up to that point, and the whole series looked more like a global spectacle than a tournament. This was Poker Room boom era in full effect. ESPN and other broadcasters had camera on dozens of featured tables. Celebrity entrants showed up for cameos, and every annoyed look or raised eyebrow could end up as a highlight reel the next day. The main event was split into multiple starting days to handle the massive players, then funneled down through the successive days until only a handful remained for the televised finals. The production value had been cranked up. Pay-per-view coverage for the final table, sound crews, and a feature table setup that made conversations and table drama part of the show. On the felt, personalities mattered as much as poker skill. The field mixed pros, hot-run amateurs, and celebrities. Names like Jamie Gold, Paul Wasika, Michael Binger, and Alan Cunningham would dominate the late stages and eventually form the final table. Jamie Gold, in particular, emerged as a force early on, piling up chips and commanding attention as one of the clear stack leaders on multiple days of play. That chip momentum and the sight of him controlling big pots set the tone for how the latter stages played out. Because the main event was broadcast and dissected minute by minute, small conflicts and table talk took on outsized weight. Featured tables were where rivalries could simmer and where a single hand might become the viral moment that defined a player's public image. With tens of thousands of dollars changing hands in a single orbit, tempers ran high. Commentators and online forums monitored every look and throw, ready to turn a heated exchange into a highlight. It was that mix of huge stakes, nonstop coverage, and colorful characters that created an atmosphere where on-table behavior could matter just as much as chip counts. So, heading into the heart of the event, the scene was set. Massive field, massive money, cameras everywhere, and a handful of big stacks led by Jamie Gold that everyone else had to navigate around. It was the perfect storm for dramatic hands, unpredictable swings, and the kind of theatrical moments that would be replayed for years. The table talk and rivalries brewing on those featured tables didn't stay private. They became part of the story the main event told each night. And one particular face that stood out among the sea of trash talkers was this guy's, Eric Molina.
I'm a gambler first and a poker player second. I'm not afraid to roll the dice.
Eric wasn't there to blend into the sea of anonymous amateurs. From the jump, he had the shades on, his confidence dialed to 11, and the mouth running non-stop. You see, Molina realized something on that featured table, where every word could end up on ESPN, and it was this: if you can't outplay everyone, you can outtalk them. And then came the moment that made him infamous, his clash with Jamie Gold. Now, who at the time was the chip leader in the event, came to Eric's table talking trash, telling players that he was the next Johnny Chan, and he was the only person in the tournament playing the players and not simply playing the cards. However, Eric knocked him down a few pegs, squaring off with him and winning a pot that momentarily took out the chip lead. Calling Gold's pre-flop raise, Eric flopped top pair and bet out $100,000. Gold raised the bar to $300,000 before Eric announced a raise. Then, when he was about to say the raise figure, Gold said,
"Might as well put it all in.
Might as well.
Not that much left."
Not about to take kindly to his attitude, Eric announced he was all in while flipping his all-in chip into the center. The chip bounced into Jamie's chip stack, and the real chaos ensued.
I'm all in.
There you go.
Jamie should be careful what he wished for.
Big re-raise back to Gold. Molina flips his all-in button, ends up in front of Jamie Gold, and it's fired back.
Hey, don't be an ass.
Gold didn't just sit there. He picked the chip up and tossed it right back across at Molina. Eric taunted Gold while the latter pondered about calling Eric's bet, hoping to eliminate him from the tournament.
Jamie Gold.
You're gonna fold, stop wasting time, so. You just got caught, so why don't you just hurry up?
Yeah, you're right.
Gold eventually folded, surrendering the pot to Eric and taking him out of the chip lead. The whole thing played like a schoolyard dare, only with hundreds of thousands of dollars in chips on the line. You could see the other players caught between disbelief and secondhand embarrassment. Here was a guy who hadn't won anything yet, barking at the chip leader, taunting the man who looked destined for the bracelet. Yet the duo weren't even done. After the hand, Gold's frustration at losing to this 21-year-old rookie led him to call the tournament directors over to the table, telling them that Eric was using a swear word, which earned him a 15-minute penalty.
Bye.
No, I didn't complete the word.
He said the F word.
No, I did not.
Take a walk.
Bye.
That's wrong. Bye.
Now, this would not be the first time that Molina would be sent off with a penalty.
What's that, shadow?
As he was ushered out of the tournament room to begin his timeout, Eric would ask the directors what curse words were acceptable while playing. When he was told none, Eric went on to invent his own curse word, using Care Bears as his choice word. Commentators were quick to pounce too. On ESPN's broadcast, the hand was replayed with the kind of mocking tone reserved for reality TV villains. What's striking when you watch that clip now is just how fast he went from unknown grinder to poker's villain of the week. One toss of a chip, and suddenly he was cemented in highlight reels for years. Molina had figured out that in the viral era, you didn't need to win a bracelet to be remembered. You just needed to cause a scene. But here's the catch. Causing scenes won't win you tournaments. That clip made him infamous, but the video only tells half the story. Because what came next in his tournament run would show that trash talk might get you attention, but it can't save you when the cards turn cold. If you remember that Gold Molina clash, tell me this. Did you first see it live on ESPN or years later as a meme floating around online? If Molina's first dust-up with Jamie Gold put him on the poker map, what followed cemented him as the loudest heel of the main event. It wasn't a one-off, because throughout the 2006 World Series of Poker, Molina doubled down on his trash-talking persona. Every time ESPN cameras swung to his table, you could see the smirk, the oversized sunglasses, the chip flicks, and the running commentary. He wasn't just chirping Jamie Gold, though that feud drew the spotlight. He needled anyone who crossed his path. Party Poker's retrospective remembered him for taunting opponents with bravado that made him a lightning rod on poker forums. Seriously, Eric has some of the most divisive moments in World Series of Poker history, because while others played cards, he seemed more interested in playing the crowd. At first, some fans ate it up. After all, poker had its share of trash talkers before, guys like Mike Matusow or Phil Hellmuth, but Molina had a different energy. And speaking of Phil Hellmuth, we made a whole video about his most explosive rage, which you won't want to miss. Just click on the next video after this one. And now, back to Eric Molina. His behavior at the table was crass. He wasn't a seasoned pro defending his turf. He was relatively unknown, and yet suddenly acting like he owned the stage, and trust me, that rubbed a lot of players the wrong way. And what happened next was totally unexpected. Molina made a deep run, remarkably deep. Out of more than 8,700 entries in the 2006 main event, he survived into the top 40. With each day, the prize jumps grew massively. Finally, on day 6, Molina's run ended. He was eliminated in 31st place, good for $329,865. On paper, it was the score of a lifetime. In fact, according to Hendon Mob, that single cash made up over 75% of his total live tournament earnings. His lifetime tally sits at just $423,020, meaning nearly everything came from that one magical week in 2006. But the optics are entirely different. Instead of being remembered for his deep run, he was remembered for his antics. His name floated through 2+2 threads not as that guy who finished 31st, but as that trash talker who clashed with Jamie Gold. It's the paradox of poker fame in the boom era. You can win hundreds of thousands, but if your antics are meme-worthy, the antics win. And Molina was a perfect case study. You see, after 2006, Molina's story begins to cool quickly. That's pathetic for a guy who made so much fuss. He popped up in a few small events here and there, but never came close to replicating that success. Hendon Mob shows scattered results, a min cash in 2007, a few low-stakes events, and then long silences. For instance, his next cash hold came in 2011, where he finished second in the Festa Al Lago Classic, winning $31,156. In 2015, he made fourth in CPPT3, winning $39,933. Between 2019 and 2021, he clinched what might be his lowest wins ever, paltry sums that range from $750 to $3,400. A far cry from the six-figure glory of the World Series of Poker. Years after, the shadow of 2006 still hung over him. Anytime his name resurfaced, fans remembered the trash talk first. Which raises a bigger point. In the internet age, how much does one viral moment define you? As Molina's case suggests, entirely. He didn't win a bracelet, he didn't build a long resume, and he didn't transition into commentary or coaching like other one-hit wonders. What he did do was leave behind a clip, a smirk, and a thrown chip that outlived his career. In a way, it's both fitting and sad. He trashed the game like a punk rock singer wrecking a dressing room, and the only trophy he walked away with was this giant YouTube thumbnail that attracted you to click, which might also turn out to be a flop if you haven't subscribed yet. And here's the kicker. Finishing 31st in the World Series of Poker main event is something most players would brag about forever. But when you add the bravado, the antagonizing, and the viral backlash, the cash gets overshadowed. Ask casual fans about Eric Molina, and the first thing they quote is his trash talk, not the payout. That's how bad it got, and that's the curse of flash fame. One clip can immortalize you, but it doesn't guarantee respect or a career. So, Eric made enemies and a meme, but did the poker world put him on ice? Do hold on, because that's where this story takes another turn, and it begs the question, what happens when the cameras pack up and the main event is over? Look at his Hendon Mob page, and the silence is deafening. After that giant $329,865 score in 2006, the trail goes cold. The numbers don't lie. More than 75% of his lifetime earnings came from that single run. But maybe the bigger story isn't what he did. It's how the poker world remembered him. On forums like 2+2, Molina became shorthand for that guy. Threads resurfaced years later with titles like Remember Eric Molina?, where posters half laughed, half cringed about the chip flip incident with Jamie Gold. Some mocked his antics outright. One poster wrote that he looked like a kid trying way too hard to be a villain. Others admitted the game needed characters like him, even if they were obnoxious. Over on Cards Chat, similar sentiments popped up. Molina was remembered less for his finish and more for the blow-up that made ESPN replays. And here's the twist. Poker never forgets. YouTube compilations keep the Molina gold spat alive, stitched into World Series of Poker craziest moments highlight reels watched by new generations who weren't even playing cards in 2006. So His aftermath wasn't scandal or exile. He wasn't banned or blackballed. He just faded, with his reputation living longer than his results. A viral summer followed by years of silence. And yet, as we'll see, poker wasn't finished with him.
Hello once again, welcome to Las Vegas.
Now, what if I told you that the poker gods have a sense of humor? Because when Eric Molina resurfaced in 2024, after nearly 2 decades in the wilderness, they handed him the kind of punishment no villain scriptwriter could dream up better. Here's how it happened. On November 1st, 2024, Poker News spotted Molina playing Day 1A of the North American Poker Tour $550 mystery bounty at Resorts World, Las Vegas. For a brief moment, it looked like the past was back in the room. The same Molina who once jawed with Jamie Gold on ESPN was now silently stacking chips in a mid-stakes event. But when reporters approached him for a quick word, he waved them off. No trash talk this time. He was just a man hoping to survive the day. The first flight of the NAPT mystery bounty had 232 players, but only 35 would make it through. By the end, Justin Young bagged the second biggest stack with $522,000 and burst the bubble, while Chris Shabbat led everyone with $570,000. Molina fought hard and even doubled up before the last break when his king-high pair beat a player bluffing with a small pocket pair. But his luck ended painfully close to the money. He opened with pocket aces and got 2 callers, including Shabbat holding King 10 of spades. The flop came Ace Queen Jack, giving Molina a set of aces. And he bet big. On most days, in most spots, this is where you back up the truck and stack someone. But not this time. Both opponents called. The turn was a 2, and Molina shoved, but Shabbat snap called with the straight. The river brought a king, no help, and Molina quietly busted just 2 spots from cashing. A brutal textbook cooler. On 2+2, a long-running thread called "Whatever Happened to Punk Eric Molina" kept bubbling over the years. Posters speculated everything from him leaving poker for good, to playing low-stakes cash games, to chasing other careers. Some insisted they'd seen him in small Vegas rooms. Others joked that he was probably still needling Jamie Gold somewhere. None of it is verified. That's the point. When a character vanishes, the internet fills the void with make-believes. So, when he walked back into the spotlight in 2024, the stage was set. Fans who remembered him from the YouTube clips rubbed their hands. Would he bring the old fire? Would there be another showdown? Instead, the deck answered for him. Was it justice? Some would say yes. The villain finally humbled. Others saw it as just poker's random cruelty. But either way, the story played perfectly on screen. And speaking of being cruel, watch this video about Phil Hellmuth blowing up. You don't want to miss it.